Alright, I'm going to head out and do some shopping today. Let's see a few different ways to log and track these expenses.
Save.
Alright, buying groceries at the grocery store, we'll obviously log that as groceries. Some people like to carry around a little notebook and log their purchases in a notebook. Like, just bought groceries, and they were $20.87. Other people like to save their receipts until they get home, and then every day or every couple days, maybe once a week, they go through the receipts and they record all of their spending from their receipts. Another easy way to do it is to just use an app on a smartphone, like log your expenses this way, $20.87, and that was at Lee's grocery store, and it's going to automatically take that money off of groceries. Save transaction. And obviously, when you're getting gas, you're going to log that as transportation costs. Alright, all done. So I'm going to log $28.41 as fuel costs. Thanks.
Yeah, have a nice day.
Log this as dining out. We did some shopping and my wife's found some cute new dresses. We'll log that as clothing costs. Okay, we made some purchases. Let's go update our expenses sheet. All right, Pathway students, let's talk about the budget and expenses plan. This is for your life now. So I'm going to start with the one that we made last time, budget and expenses 5 years from now. What I'm actually going to do is give my sheet a title, call it the 5-year plan, and I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to click it and I'm going to move or copy. I'm going to create a copy and move it to the end. There we go. Now I'm going to call this the budget. And instead of budget and expenses 5 years from now, we can just call this the budget and expenses. And depending on what month you're doing it, if you're doing this in October or in January, you might want to give it the name of the month that this would be your budget for, because it's going to be your real budget. So this should be your actual categories, your actual income right now, currently. So suppose that these numbers are correct, that this is your current income for your household and all of your expenses. I'm going to add another row in here, and I'm going to call this row here the budget. Maybe I'll center this and make it bold. This is the planned budget. I'm going to have a second column now for the actual expenses. So the most common mistake students make when they turn these in is they submit a file that has either the budget or it has the expenses, but not both. This file should now have both because it's going to be both your budget and tracking the actual expenses, the actual things you pay each month. So I'm going to give this some color. Maybe I'll make this orange up here. I don't like that color of orange either. Maybe a little darker. Sure. Okay, I'm going to kind of duplicate these same columns over here on this side. So I will merge these cells together, put it back on the left, merge, and put them on the left. So I'm going to make this column longer because now there's going to be, or I'm making this heading longer, because now there's going to be an extra row here. Because I have my budget and now I'm adding actual expenses. So I'm going to add the grid lines and make it kind of the same light blue as the other one. And the same with down here, grid lines, light blue, grid lines, and this one was kind of the yellowish. Okay, grid lines here as well. Another thing I forgot to do when building it before is to format this column as money. So I'm going to highlight this, all these, and I'm going to format this as money right here, currency. And mine is going to set it to dollars, but if you're doing this activity in another country, it's going to set it to the currency of your country, which is just fine. So now I have my budget. This is the plan. This is how much I plan to spend in all of these categories for the month based on my income. Now for the rest of the month, I'm going to be tracking my actual expenses. So I'm going to make a new tab for that. And I'm going to call this one Expenses. So I'll probably have a section for the date, and I'll have a section for the store or what was purchased or where I spent the money. I'll just call it where. And then the amount. So these are headings, so I'm going to make them a little bit bigger, maybe bold. Maybe I'll put some color in the background here. I'll make that one centered. Okay, maybe I'll make them all centered. And then we'll add some grid lines here. All right. So this is where I'm going to be actually tracking how much I'm spending in different amounts. Now I'm ready to start recording all those purchases I made today. So in the date section, I can add the date for whatever date you're doing it for, whichever month you're tracking your expenses. That first transaction was at Lee's Market, and the amount was $20.87. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and change all these to money formatting. You know, it might be helpful also if I insert another column, insert it on this side. I'm going to insert a column in between the where and the amount. And I'm going to call this column the category. It might be helpful for me when I'm tracking to know which category. So Lee's Market, this category was groceries. And I'll center that category. Next up, also on 9/29, these are actually all going to be 9/29. I went to Chevron, and that's fuel for the car, and that one was $28.41. And we went to Swig, and that was Dine Out. Got a quick drink, a snack, $3.12, and we went to Urban Wear and did some clothes shopping, and that one ended up being $45.93. So I can continue to track all of my expenses this way throughout the month and then add up each category. If you're really good at Excel, you can actually set it to add up each category individually for you. But then at the end of the month or throughout the month, you can come back here and record your budget and your actual amount. These are the actual amount you've spent so far. For example, on groceries, my budget for the month is $500. I have spent so far $20.87. On Dine Out, I've spent $3.12 so far. On fuel, I spent $28.41. And on clothing, I've also spent $45.93. So that's happening so far. In order to get full credit for this assignment, you need to have two columns. You need to have the budget column that shows what you plan to spend in each category, and an actual expenses column that shows the actual amount you've really spent in each of these categories so far. You don't need to have a separate tab that shows your expenses like this. You might keep all your receipts. You might just look up your bank statement so you can see where you've used your debit card. You might keep all of them in a notebook and record as you go shopping, and that's okay. You don't need to have a separate tab in your Excel book that shows your expenses like this. I think it helps, but it's not required. What is required is that you have one column for your budget and another column that shows your actual expenses. Now, if you want to get really fancy, we can add another column here. We can call it remaining. I'll make this bold. And this column is actually going to be for the difference. So we're going to add some math formulas in here, and we'll set it up like this. This column here is going to equal the amount of our budget, subtract the amount that we've actually spent so far. And so that will tell us, as we go throughout the month, as we keep adding numbers and adding amounts to our expenses, you can set it up so that it will tell you how much you have left to spend in each of those categories. And actually, once you put that formula in once, you don't need to put it in each time. You can actually just click on the corner and drag that same formula down, and it's going to show you how much money is left. I haven't spent any money in home and car repair, so I still have a full 150 amount left. But fuel, I've budgeted 75, I've spent 28, so I have 46.59 left. So you can add this remaining column here if you want. And then, you're going to have to go through and you can format all of this to be the same as the others with the colored backgrounds. You don't have to do this. This is just if this is something you enjoy doing, if you really like budgeting and Excel, you can continue to add all these little things to make your budget sheet look nice. Equals the amount for tithing, subtract what I've actually paid. And that's how much I still have left because I still need to pay that bill. So you can set this up for the month, and then throughout the month, as the month goes on, you will continue to update these constantly, and so your amount remaining will always be changing, and you can see just how much money you're okay to spend. If you're going to spend in those categories, you can see how much money you can spend and still be in your budget or under your budget. And last grid lines. There we go. I guess we don't need it. I guess we don't need them in this section because you already have total income, total expenses. So this would be actually, so this is the total budget. Put the budget up here again. This would be actual. So this is the amount that I've budgeted for and my actual amount. Okay, now I'm going to use the sum function again to add up all my actual expenses. My income here, my actual income, is going to equal the sum of these two boxes. And my total expenses is going to equal the sum of everything else in this column here. And since I've merged cells to make these long, it would be a little hard. I couldn't click and drag. So I'm going to say it's everything from this cell, which is D10. So I'm going to write D10, and then the two dots, the colon, all the way down to the bottom, which is D29. D29. Everything from D10 to D29 is my actual expenses. So far, I spent $98.33. Say I put some income in here. Say I only made $22.40. Not what I expected. And then here again, it will be the difference. Centered, bold, equals this minus this, enter. And same thing here. The difference equals my budgeted amount of expenses subtracted my actual amount of expenses. And lastly, I'm going to add another formula to subtract my actual income from my actual expenses. So this is going to equal my actual income minus my actual expenses. There we go. And now the difference, I guess we can do it here too, the difference between what I planned to be the difference and what is actually can go there. Looks like I'm missing a grid line. All right, it's all done. So here I have a budget sheet set up where I can make a plan every month. I think I'm going to get paid this amount, and I think I'm going to plan to spend all of these amounts in all these expense categories, and I know just where I am. Then as I actually get paid, I can enter the actual amounts here, and as I spend money and pay my bills, I can enter those actual amounts here, and everything will automatically adjust so I can see I'm planning to earn this much, I've actually earned this much, I plan to spend this much, I've actually spent this much so far, so I should have about this much left to spend in each of these categories. Everything's in there ready to go. You can also use a separate tab to track your expenses, to record them. It's not required. What is required is at least 2 columns. This third column that shows how much is remaining, that's not required for the assignment, but it's helpful. What is required is 2 columns. You need to show your planned budget for the month and how much you've actually spent in each category, and you'll be all set. Thanks.